Three,
Three,
two,
two,
one.
one.
Launch to success with Vera V.
V.
Hi, Gen V. Welcome to my podcast, Launch to Success with Vera V. First of all, long time no see. Second of all, I ran 13.1 miles 4 days ago, aka my first ever half marathon that I've been training for 4 months, but I came really close to quitting. So this podcast episode will be all about that. How to stay consistent with whatever it is that you chose and not quit, even though that's very much what you want to do. I'll be talking about the half marathon itself, my process with it, what I learned. I'll be talking about my running journey as well and how I got into running and why I wanted to do the half marathon in the first place. And of course, you know that launch success is very practical. And I'll be sharing various values, aka tips that you can implement right away to stay consistent with whatever it is that you want to stay consistent with and not quit and not give up. So get ready for an amazing episode. First, I'd like to introduce myself. If you don't know me already, I am a full-time creator and entrepreneur. I'm also a mentor for creators, which is amazing. But I'm also a very, very, very big fanatic, an absolute fan of self-improvement, wellness, fitness, health, and anything related to that. So Launch Success is all about self-improvement, but also social media, that aspect of it, because I feel like it is self-improvement. Anything we do to grow and better ourselves is self-improvement in my books. Now, let's talk about running for a second. First of all, what is a half marathon? So as you may know, the full marathon is 26 something miles. I'm not exactly sure how many, but a half marathon is exactly half of that. It's 13.1 miles. And that seems like a crazy amount because it is. It is over 20 kilometers in distance, which is absolutely insane. So let's knock out this question out of the ballpark. Why did I want to do it in the first place? Well, with running, I'm not a runner by nature. At least I do not consider myself to be. I do not feel like I have a runner's build. I feel like I'm bigger than typical, very much long distance runners are. Like my legs are stronger, like bulkier in that sense. So I feel like by nature, just my build is not a runner's build. Because when I think of runners, for example, and correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously when you think of professionals, like they're super light, especially the long distance ones, super light, super thin almost. Obviously they're super duper strong, but that's just the kind of build they have. And I've never felt like that was me. For me, running actually was always kind of hard because in 2023, I set myself a big fitness goal, and that was to feel lighter and to become more lean and strong. And so I ended up losing 15 to 20 pounds, I think around 17 to be exact, which is a big, 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 big number. So obviously I look different and I feel different and I am lighter now. But when I was 17 pounds heavier, it was really hard for me to run. And running was just always this unattainable thing almost. I was like, I could never be a runner. Like long distance seems so cool and so fun, but there's no way that I could ever do it because I'm just not built that way, you know? I'm just not a runner by nature. So I always kind of stuck to weightlifting. And actually I started off my whole fitness regimen when I was, I think, 4 years old because I joined rhythmic gymnastics because I'm originally from Russia. And that's flexibility. And I'm still very flexible to this day. I still love yoga, especially hot yoga. I literally went this morning. So that stuck with me. But I also wanted to be a professional tennis player, which I'll talk about in a bit. But why did I want to do the half marathon? Because I knew it would challenge me. For me, I'm the type of person who seeks out challenges. If I know something's going to be hard, I'm going to go and do it. And you know what is good proof of that? I actually went skydiving for my birthday. My birthday was, it's October, pretty much November now. So I don't know. But it was in March. I can't do the math that quick. But skydiving always terrified me. But that's why I wanted to do it. You know, it's for me, it's the same thing as when I'm gonna run and it's getting really hard. My motivation goes up. For most people, it probably goes down. They're probably like, oh, I want to stop. For me, it goes up because I'm like, huh, look, it's getting hard for you, huh? Go faster. Go just sprint off now. You know, that's partly because how I was raised, because I remember my dad in Russia, we'd go on walks every single day, pretty much in the forest, especially in the winter. And if you know anything about Russia, you know that it's very cold. And my dad would always say, we would start whining, complaining, like, oh, dad, it's so cold. Like, we're so tired. Because the forest was a big place. I used to live in, I guess, suburbs of St. Petersburg, and we had like a forest nearby. It was ginormous. And when we'd start whining, my dad would always say, oh, if you're tired of walking, run. Don't walk, run. So I feel like that really stuck with me. And now I am the way that I am. And actually, another good proof of that is during the half marathon itself. And once again, I'll go about the process in detail a little bit later on. But when I was crossed, when I crossed the finish line twice actually, because the first time I crossed it, I was at 12.5 miles and not 13.1. And I looked at my app and I was like, huh, that's really weird. I can't believe that the course cheated me. Like I had to imagine how tired I was after 12.5 and then I had to run an additional 0.6. So I actually crossed the finish line twice. And I did the half marathon with my boyfriend. And also my family was there, like my whole family came out and they were astonished. They're like, I think my mom was telling me this afterwards. My boyfriend was like, why did Vera like run past the finish line and kept going? And everybody in my family was just like, oh, it's just Vera. Because I'm committed to myself. Like if I choose to do something, I want to do it to its fullest extent, you know? And I wanted to get those 13.1 miles. So with my running journey, when I was younger, like I said, I wanted to be a professional tennis player, which is a lot of cardio as well, and it's a different kind of cardio. I feel like long distance running is easier in some ways because you get into a good rhythm. It's a lot more mental, I feel like, than it is physical. Obviously, do not get me wrong. When I first started training for my half marathon, I thought I would, what's the expression? Like throw my feet up or something. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the English expression signifying death. But point is, it was not easy at all. But still, I feel like long distance running is easier versus tennis, where you play and it's like a very jagged rhythm. You don't. It's pretty much unpredictable. You know, it depends on your opponent. So I grew up with that. So obviously, I was very fit. I actually wanted to be a professional tennis player up until I was 11, and then I quit because there was an academic competition at school, and it would be at the time of my practices. And I just didn't really want to do tennis anymore because when I was 11, 12, I had this choice of choosing tennis or music to pursue professionally. And I chose music, but it's funny because I'm not a musician professionally now. I'm a content creator mentor, so I have a business. But what's also really funny in fifth grade when anyone asked me what I wanted to be, I always said entrepreneur, which I thought meant also tennis player because tennis player kind of works for themselves, which I work for myself fully now. But interesting. But point is, my cardio was up to par. And in sixth grade, we had, I think I was 11 at that time actually, we had a little running competition, jogathon. Maybe you've heard of it. But basically, it's where you run, you mark your laps, and I remember they announced the fastest people after the race, like a week after, on the little school radio, because this was elementary school, right? Sixth grade. And I know for some people, sixth grade is middle school. For me, it was not. It was just elementary school. And they said I was the fastest runner out of all the girls, which is crazy. And I was so honored. So I was pretty fast. I remember for that one, I think my mile time was maybe 6 minutes 30 seconds per mile. And mind you, I did not really run that much. I just ran to work out. But I was crazy at 11. I got my first gym membership and I lied to everybody that I was 13. And I came to the front desk. They're like, how old are you? I'm like, the 13. So obviously lied my way out of that one. But I would just go on the treadmill and run for an hour straight. I don't know. I feel like I didn't know much about working out. So I was doing it super duper wrong, but I was doing it because me and my older sister would go there all the time. We'd walk to the gym. I would do some crazy workout. For running, I wouldn't even warm up. Like I'd just go straight at it. Like imagine my tiny little body and then like 6 miles an hour, just like run. I don't know. It was crazy. But so yeah, I was very cardio physically fit. But then I quit tennis, and this is actually kind of funny because I remember when I quit tennis, I just stopped working out altogether. Um, just dropped everything. And mind you, during tennis, it was during summer we had one practice in the morning, one in the afternoon, but in between that, there's also a fitness session with the fitness trainer. So it was very, 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 very challenging every single day. And I was used to that sort of rhythm. So when I quit altogether, it was really weird for me. It was a really weird time period. I didn't really know what to do. I would go on, my dad in the morning, he would always do like a warm up thing. Like he does his 500 push ups, whatever he does, like while he walks, whatever. So my sister and I and my nephew would go and do that. So that was something that I did at least. But I don't know, it felt like a very weird time. But then when I was around 13, obviously working out loses its appeal as you grow older because you're like, ew, like working out sucks. And I remember talking to my dad actually about this. And I was like, Dad, is it true that the older you get, the more you have to invest into your body? Like the more you have to work out and the harder you have to go. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I just can't believe it. I started to hate it at age 13, genuinely hate it because at that time I also was binging a lot. And with this, I want to make this very crystal clear. I never had a binging disorder, at least not that I know of. I don't believe I had an eating disorder, but I would just binge all the time, like binge eat, which is something I really had to work my way through. So if you want me to make a separate podcast episode on that, let me know because that's definitely like a bad habit that I had. Food was very psychologically comforting, I think, for that reason. But I would binge a lot. So I would eat, like, imagine me eating half a tub of ice cream that's like 5 pounds, like from Walmart, the 5 pound yellow ice cream, vanilla. Me eating half of that and then going for a run to burn it off. It was super weird. And I remember my dad would go on these runs with me because he'd bike and I'd like run and it would burn my whole body because you have like 2 pounds of ice cream in your stomach. And then also another story that I have regarding that is my grandma, she's in Russia, obviously, and she sends us packages from time to time. She's been doing it for a while. And one time she sent us this package with chocolate waffle cakes, which are delicious, like Russian chocolate waffle cakes, 5 of them. It took me 2 days to finish all of them. So I hid them from my family and then I ate them discreetly. What I would also do regarding my binging, so cute, is the Tall House chocolate chip cookies, like that packed for cooking. I would just take it and just finish it all in one sitting. Like I would just take it up to my room. So I don't know. It felt really weird because I feel like I had to hide food and like it was a bad cycle of binging and then working out. So my original point with that was when I quit tennis and I started binging like that, my dad, I remember he told me something that really scared me for some reason. He was like, Very, like, you don't work out anymore. Like, you're eating a lot more than you have before, like, from a place of concern, not from a place of, like, oh, you're fat now. My parents have never told me that ever because that's, like, concerning. And if your parents ever told you that, I really am sorry because that's horrible. But he was like, what if you get heart obesity? And I was like, heart obesity? He's like, yeah, like when fat tissue around your heart starts to build up, like you can die from it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if he said that as a joke or not, but I interpreted it very seriously. So that's when I started working out again. And I had a calendar. For me, I'm just that type of person. I feel like I always have been a perfectionist. So if I approach something, like I go at it and I go hard at it. And it may not always be the healthiest thing, which is not that great, but I give it my all basically. Like I give it my absolute all. So I got myself a calendar. And at that time, I didn't have my own room. I actually got my room when I was like 14, because before that, I just shared one with my sister. I got myself a calendar, and for every single day, I would write out my weight in kilograms, of course, because I grew up Russian. Pounds were unknown to me, even though I've been here for like 11 years now, almost. Oh, it's going to be 11 years in 2 weeks. Wow, that's crazy. What a long time. Or is it going to be 10? I don't know. But we came here in 2013, so I guess it's going to be 10 years. That's crazy. 10 years in America. Oh, wow. Whatever. That's beside the point. So I'd write down my weight every single day. And during the day, I would track what I ate in like a calories app. I don't remember why I counted calories. I think for me, it was just more a mindful thing. Me at the ripe old age of like 13, just making sure that I'm not like snacking too much, eating this, eating that. I would also try different drinks to speed up my metabolism, which is very interesting. Like I remember I, this is actually kind of funny. So the day that I got my first period, I made this drink with lemon juice and cucumber because I read online that it would speed up your metabolism. And so then I got my period and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I think I just did something wrong with my body because like my body's just way faster than it should be right now. Is it because of the drink? And I haven't drank it since because honestly it was disgusting. And I lied to my family being like, yeah, it's so good. Just so they wouldn't think I'm weird drinking metabolism speeding drinks when I was like 11, 13 years old, whatever. So I became kind of hard on that. And then I stopped running because honestly, like with working out, it was just super out of the blue almost. I did the Nike Training Club, that app, which I strongly recommend for working out, actually. They have a bunch of different workouts. You can choose the intensity. It's amazing. So, but then I distinctly remember my running journey began again in quarantine. And then I became heavier. Like I was at my absolute heaviest. I think part of it was the binging and then the eating more. And mind you, I was weightlifting at the time. Nothing crazy, nothing too specific. I didn't have too specific a program. I've kind of always worked out throughout my life. It was just more sporadic, but I've never had like specific fitness goals. And at 15, actually, I should make a separate podcast episode about this as well. But I also talk about it in the one how I transformed my body. But when I was like 15, 16 years old, it was just my absolute lowest. Like I did not like the way I looked at all. And for me, it just made no sense. I was like, I eat healthy. Like I eat way healthier than my peers do. I work out pretty much every single day with weightlifting. Once again, why do I still look the same way that I do? And part of this, I think, maybe is this myth that I heard. I believe it's a myth. Maybe it's not. But in Russia, that's like a thing that's talked about. So obviously growing up Russian, like my mom was Russian, my sisters are Russian. They all know this stuff. But for me, like I believed in it, but I'm not sure if it's a thing in America or like in Europe or anywhere else. Asia, you just please let me know in the comments if you've ever heard of this as well. But there's this myth that when you become a teenager, you gain weight and it's like, okay, which obviously you gain some sort of weight because I do not look, even right now, like I'm at my most fittest. I do not look the same way I did at 11 because I'm like way older now and I've hit puberty. I've gone through puberty. So, but there's this myth of gaining weight and like apparently it was super normal. In Russia, it's very normalized to like gain, I don't know, like 10, 20 pounds just because you're becoming a teenager and not like in a healthy way, like where you kind of get big and then you can lose it. And so for me in my mind, that was like normal. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm just in the middle of that. But here I've never really heard of that happening. I think if you just honestly set fitness goals and you work out to feel good, you're going to look good as a result of that. And if, of course, you eat caloric maintenance and deficit and not like 5 chocolate waffle cakes like I did or the half tub of ice cream like I did, because that is not good. So when I was 15, 16 years old, just my absolute worst feeling about my body. I remember it was like 4th of July. And I just spent so much time crying in front of the mirror because I was like, just hate the way that I look. I feel so ugly. I feel so fat. I feel disgusting. And I think a lot of those things is just that I felt heavy, and I don't like feeling heavy. Nobody does. It's like feeling emotionally heavy, but just imagine physically heavy. I just did not like it at all. Just did not like it at all. At all. But during quarantine, I'd go on runs. And I remember my pace was like 12 minutes a mile. And I was like, okay, like I'm doing good, I guess. And then I stopped running because quarantine kind of ended, and then I started running again. At some point, I did tennis. After that, when I was like 17, 18, I stopped because 17 I finished high school early, and then at 18 obviously I ran again, and my pace was like 14 minutes a mile. It's like basically a walk. 13 minutes a mile because once again I got even heavier. So running was just hard because here's a little thing. Here's a little TMI piece of it. It's really hard to run when you have big boobs, and I had big boobs. Like by nature, I have big boobs, but imagine running when they're like twice as big. Because right now, having lost 17 pounds, they got smaller, which I'm really happy about because I can now run in peace. I actually made a running video. During my runs, I always motivate myself. So I thought, why not record a video about this? I already post like self movement content, and I feel like it just ties in so well. And I did that, and there's so many comments like, oh my gosh, she doesn't have a supportive bra. Like her boobs are jiggling all over the place. But have you thought about the fact that there's no bra I can wear that's gonna make my boobs not jiggle? Why? Because they're just bigger. Like there's nothing I can do about that. It's always gonna go like that. So that's to address all those comments. So sorry for that little TMI piece, but I feel like I had to put it in. Now, where was I? So yeah, my pace is super duper slow, and that's what I kind of, for me, running became this unattainable thing. I always thought long distance running was the absolute coolest, but for me, it was just like how could I ever do it? So mind you, last year July, I set myself the goal of becoming lighter and lowering my weight to 135 pounds, and I used to be 100 like 55, 150. I don't think I ever got to 160, but 100 like 55 pounds. That's probably on a consistent basis. That's how much I weighed. And once again, weight doesn't really have much to do with anything. But a thing about goals is it's good to make them specific. And here, in my formulation of the goal, losing weight itself was not the goal. The goal was to feel lighter. And the evidence of that would be to lower the weight. Because if you don't know how you're going to measure your goal, then how do you know that you've achieved it? You know? It's like, for example, oh, I just want to be happier. That's not a goal. Because how can you measure happiness? You can't. Are you going to measure the amount of endorphins in your brain? Or like, how's that going to go about? I want to be more motivated. Are you going to measure the number of individual dopamine cells, hormones? No, that's not how it works. So you have to find a way to measure it. So for me, weight was not the goal. Like I wasn't aiming for 135 exactly, but I knew that I just wanted to feel lighter. And for me, that goal also seems super unattainable because up to that point, I've never really set goals that much. Even though I don't know, like I feel like I had goals in a sense of like things that I knew I wanted to do, but never specific goals. And it just seemed crazy. I remember I came from a run, and I was talking to my mom. I was like, Mom, running is so heavy for me. Like I don't know if I can do it. Like it's just so, I feel disgusting. I feel horrible. I feel ugly. Like I want to set a goal and you let me know what you think. Okay. And she was like, yeah, okay. Because my mom also is a life coach. So it's just, I feel like I I'm a life coach as well. That's one of the things that I do, personal development coaching. Absolutely love it. So obviously growing up around that, I feel like, I don't know, I started to appreciate it a lot more last year. And so I set myself a goal. My mom worked me through it, like helped me make it more specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, time bound, and emotion, how it ties into my life. So I set that goal, wrote it down. And for me, it just seemed crazy. Like I was like, how in the world am I going to lose like 15 to 20 pounds? And just not even lose, like how am I going to feel lighter? And losing 15, 20 pounds like was insane. And I remember I told my sister, my older sister, and she was like, Vera, like you're probably like going to lose your period if you do that. Like it's so crazy. But I mean, I'm 17 pounds lighter and I feel greater than ever. So truly listen to yourself regarding your goals. But okay, so I set the goal, started working towards it, started noticing progress. And then January, I saw Renee No on TikTok, and she's a runner girl, obviously. Like, but she runs super fast. She has like 7.5 minute miles when she runs 5 miles. So I was like, that's crazy. I want to start running too because I'm lighter now. I don't know why. I just got Hoka's and I started running in it. And then actually, Hoka's kind of destroyed my feet, and I made a video on that, and it got 4.5 million views on TikTok. So if you have bad experience with something, share it on TikTok because it's gonna blow up. But that's beside the point. Anyway, so I did that and I started running. And I remember I can actually read this off too. Let me see if I can find it. But my first ever run was sometime in January. And I just remember how hard it was. Like it was horrid. It was horrid. My hips were hurting, my knees were hurting. I was like, are Hoka supposed to feel that heavy on your feet? Like, because I got kind of walking shoes, I think, now that I think about it. They were not exactly running shoes. So that was also really fun. Do not recommend it. So let's see. Okay, so January I did 8 runs. My first one was January 12th, 2.27 miles, 12:23 pace, 12 minutes 23 seconds. And for this one, keep in mind I was going super easy. And my last run, now that we look at it, was October 28th, 13.12 miles, 10 minutes 22 pace. Look at the difference. Like, it's crazy how far I've come. And I feel like sometimes you can just look at your progress and just be like, oh, like, yeah, I guess I run. But I shaved off 2.5 minutes. No, sorry. I shaved off 2 minutes, but I added in 11 miles, which is insane. Anyway, so my first run was really, really tough. That's why I stopped, actually. I was like, I wonder if it's going to get any better. So I ran in Hocus for a while. They destroyed my feet completely. I had so many blisters, like just horrible, ugly, disgusting. I couldn't even run at one point. And then for my birthday, like 2 months later, I treated myself and I went to Roadrunner, which I strongly recommend for everybody who wants to get into running. And I got soles custom fit to my foot and I got shoes that fit my foot. And actually, the biggest life hack there was having athletic socks, because then it wouldn't rub against your skin and create blisters or calluses in the first place. But the second hack also was to get bigger running shoes. My running shoes are size 10 in women's, and they used to be like the little Hokas, tiny little orange Hokas. They used to be size 8, which I can still hike in the Hokas. Like, I like them for walking, but not for running, because the running I got Asics Nimbus Cloud 25, I think. Just so good, so good. And the first run I did in them, I honestly shaved off like a minute off all my miles, which is crazy. And did like 4 miles at the time too. So, but when I started my running journey in January, I was like, okay, something I should do differently. I should probably have a goal, right? So I set myself a goal of running 9 miles in 90 minutes by June 2023, like June 6th, 2023 or something. And actually, a funny thing about that is, obviously in June I did not reach that goal. But if we look, Russian accent popped out. If we look at my half marathon pace, actually, I did reach that goal, surprisingly, because my pace got really slow towards the end of it. So let's see. Oh, it doesn't show intervals, huh? But okay. It's okay. My fastest pace was 8 miles, 8 minutes per mile. It was just in 13 minutes. Like, that's crazy. 13 miles, that's crazy. Anyway, that's beside the point. But that was my goal. I did not reach it. And I actually shared that goal publicly on social media, which I strongly recommend. If you have any goal and you want to make sure that you reach it, share it on social media. Because even if you don't, it's okay not to reach goals. For me, I was just very honest about it, because I think authenticity in the social media space is very important. And personally, I hate when a person's like a creator I love. They say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. And then they just, that date comes about. For example, okay, this is crazy, but I actually signed up for the half marathon for October in like June, when I didn't reach that running goal, because this one creator that I follow, she talked about her doing a half marathon in August, in 2 months. And she's like, yeah, I'm not really going to train. I'm just going to go for it. But then August comes about and I don't hear anything from her. I don't see anything on her stories, on her posts. I'm like, did she even do the half marathon? She has like nothing on it. And for me, that pisses me off as a fellow creator, but then also just as a social media consumer. If you say you're going to do something on social media, you either do it or you come clean why you didn't do it. So in June, I made a whole post. I was like, this is why I didn't reach my goal. I didn't stay consistent. I haven't run in a while, but blah, blah. And then I signed up for the half marathon. And that's when I started training. I found a program on Zappos, I don't know. I double checked it with ChatGPT and I was like, yeah, looks solid. But I do not recommend having that kind of program, because it had me running like 10 miles, 12 miles, almost 13 miles towards the end of it, which is why I burnt out. And the first few months were going really well. I got into running slowly but surely. It was really hard to run even 4 miles at first, because I was like, wow, what a big distance. Now I can do it in my sleep. Now 4 miles is like, oh, 4 miles. Like, I could do 7. I'm like, oh, 7 miles, like whatever, just crazy. The power of training, the power of consistency. Consistency is the name of the game. If you want to be successful in life, achieve anything in life, stay consistent. Do the hard thing, the boring thing, the annoying thing over and over and over and over and over again, and get better at it. Better and better and better and better and better. So yeah, that's your little motivational spiel. But point is, I started training for the half marathon. And now I want to talk about everything went well for the first few months. And it was really hard at first too, which if you want to train for something like that, just know at first it's going to be probably really hard. And I remember I was talking to my younger sister, and she actually does track in high school, but it's like sprints, so it's different. And I was like, hey, is it okay that it's that hard? Like, I literally feel so out of breath. I feel so unfit. Like, is that normal? And she said, yeah, it's probably because your body's just getting used to running on a program, because you just used to do it kind of sporadically and randomly. And I was like, you know what, you're right. So after the first 2 weeks, it got really easy for me and it just became fun. And obviously, I had to build my distance, and that was challenging. Like, because at first you run 3 miles, 3 miles, 2 miles, and then 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Like you do sprint intervals, whatever. You mix it in. So if you want to find a program, go in Zappos, but then adjust it. And I'm going to tell you exactly how. But then came a point about a month and a half ago where I started giving up. Like Janie, a month and a half before my half marathon, which was 3 days ago, I started giving up. I had thoughts like, should I even do it? Like, what's the point of that? It's so stupid. Like, we're not meant to be, as humans, we're not meant to be runners, we're walkers, which is actually not necessarily true. We evolved to be long distance runners because no other animal can do what we do. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, I started coming up with a lot of excuses. I just didn't really want to do it. I felt really burnt out. And once again, my boyfriend and I, we do a lot of runs together, like every weekend, pretty much the long distance ones. And that's where he learned Russian from me. I don't know why, but he just wants to learn Russian, which I think is the cutest thing ever. Honestly, this is romance. This is the real deal, the real romance. So yeah, but I just remember every single run beforehand, we'd be like, yeah, we'll run on Saturday. And then he's like, okay, Vera, like, are you ready for a run? And I'm like, I just can't do it. Like, I hate running. Kill me now. I don't want to do it at all. So that's how it was pretty much, if it was anything. Because I also had a bunch of trips and I just did not run in them at all. So it was a lot of large gaps. But the first run my boyfriend and I actually did together, we ran 6.5 miles. And that was pretty easy, which reflecting back on the training after the half marathon where we're talking, and he said, you were ready to run the half marathon then and there. And I was like, you know what? Actually, yeah. So a big mistake I made with the half marathon is the fact that I gave myself too much time to train. Even the Zappos program, the kind of weird one, was for 14 weeks. I gave myself 18 weeks because I was like, well, what if I get lazy? What if this? What if that? Way too much time. Way too much time. If it were up to me, I'd give myself 8 to 12 weeks max. And that was designed for somebody who's not very fit at all, I'm pretty sure. Like, analyzing it, I think it's a person who's never really ran before in their life, which there's nothing wrong with. But for me, I was kind of at a different level because I already did the January thing, so I had 6 months under my belt, somewhat. But okay, so at that point where I almost gave up, the thing that saved me, and I was talking to my mom about this as well, because life coach, is I was telling her, and I was like, Mom, there's like, I just don't want to do it anymore. I've so burnt out. I was started going on runs in the beginning, and I remember I would just sob before running, like, and I would cry on the run as well. And I just felt so dead. I was like, is this what burnout feels like? And at that time, I also had just finished listening to this podcast by Emma Chamberlain, which is like, am I burnt out or am I lazy? And she said, well, if you feel better after pushing through, then you were just lazy. But if it brings you to tears and makes you emotional, you were just burnt out. So in my mind, I got this idea. I was like, I'm probably burnt out from running, which truthfully, I probably was, because once again, the training program was just way too hard and should not have been that way, because I should have ran the half marathon at my peak and not at like my burning out phase, So because you can't hold a peak for like 4 weeks straight, and that's what the program had me do. So crazy, do not recommend. Maybe I should try it again, because actually I want to do another half marathon, the OC marathon in May. I haven't signed up for it yet, so keep me accountable for that. Which of course I'll give you tips how to stay consistent as well. But where were we? I just felt super burnt out, and then I talked to my mom, and she was like, well, Vera, have you thought about your goal for the half marathon? And I was like, yeah, I want to run a half marathon in under 2 hours, 10 minutes, which actually I did technically, I believe. But then I did the full distance. So it was like 2 hours, 20 minutes, so 10 minutes longer. But with the finish line, I did. Actually, no, I did not. It was 2 hours, 20 minutes. Pardon. But just close, because my actual goal was like, in 2 hours, 30 minutes. And if I stop twice, I'm okay. I didn't stop a single time, which is amazing. And I'm proud of myself for that. But she's like, no, that's not. So your goal is to run the marathon, right? And if you run the marathon, you approach it like, okay, I'm just going to run this thing and just not do anything running related ever again. Because I would go around being like, I'm just going to do this for freaking marathon that I told everybody I would. And then I'm just not going to run again. And she was like, that's not the correct approach. What's the true reason behind you wanting to do it? And then it hit me that in my life, and this is super transparent, honest thing to say, the thing I lack the most in, believe it or not, is consistency. And when I was talking to my boyfriend about this, he was like shook. He was like, you like lacking consistency. You work out every day. Like, you do this every day. You do that every day. And I'm like, yeah, but I tend to be a very spontaneous person. And with working out and like journaling and whatever, that's things that are very, it's like foundational. I don't have to think about doing them anymore because they're such a deep ingrained habit, But even with my morning routine, even right now, actually, it's like I have it some days I don't, some days I do. Most I do, some I don't. Comes a period where most I don't, some I do. It's like I'm not a very consistent person by nature. I think I'm just more sporadic, So I really lack in consistency. And I felt like up until the half marathon, I started a lot of things and I just never finished them. Like, I told people I would do things and I just never did. And that's a horrible feeling to have, genuinely, because then you just start to feel like a failure. You're like, okay, well, why do I start so many things but finish so few? And obviously there's the human aspect to this as well. I want to see a person who starts and finishes everything they start. But I feel like if you end a project, then you have to be like clean with yourself about it versus just kind of dipping out of it. And I just tended to dip out of things. So when my mother asked me about my half marathon goal and my motivation behind it, I was like, I just want to bring it from start to finish. Like, this is the thing that I really want to finish. No matter what the result is, I started training for it 4 months ago and I want to finish it. No matter how I finish it, but I just want to finish it. Because then for me, that would be building into my consistency. That would be feeding into that, which is consistency is something I'm working on heavily right now. And she's like, okay, well, that's much better. And after that, it felt like the weight just rolled off my shoulders and I could finally run again. And once again, it wasn't that fun anymore, like, because I was still in the burnout phase a little bit. But yeah, and I wasn't training that much, honestly. I maybe went like the week before, I went on like 2 runs, even 3 miles the day before felt super hard. But then the half marathon came about and it was much easier than I thought. So here's some things that I learned running the half marathon. If you want to see the process, watch my YouTube video. It should come out. Let me see actually what date exactly, because it's in November. But it should be on my YouTube channel if you're watching this or listening to this podcast on November 4th or later. It is there, the half marathon vlog. Watch it. You'll see the whole process. I checked in every 3 miles because that's when I had my gels as well. So it's super easy. But overall, the half marathon was easier than I thought, genuinely. And I'm really happy about that. So here's what I learned about it. First of all, slow and steady wins the race. Because it was an air gun event, right? So it went, and everybody just sprinted. Me and my boyfriend, we started off together because we were like, yeah, for the first 6 miles we'll run together. But then I realized that he wanted to go faster and I didn't. And I was like, you know what? Go off. Like, go off, King. I have my music. I'm good. He's like, oh, Vera, are you sure? Like, we were going to do this together. And I was like, yeah, just go. So obviously he won. And he finished 8th out of like 20 people that were in it. And I was 14th, which I'm still really proud about. But basically, whatever. The cutoff for the general half marathon for the whole thing was at 3:30. So if you finished after that, sorry, you were out. Anyway, so the gunfires, I start off slow. I know that slow and steady wins the race. There's this anecdote about the rabbit and the turtle. I don't know if it's a English thing or a thing in English, but I know it's a thing in Russian because I always listened to it growing up. Like, my grandma would tell me this all the time, my parents would. So basically, the rabbit and the turtle started off at the same time at the start line, right? And so the gunfires, it's a race. The race has begun. The rabbit just fires off, like just hops, so super fast. But the turtle just kind of goes, or the tortoise, sorry, just kind of goes at its own pace, goes. The rabbit runs out of breath, like stops a billion times. The tortoise just goes. And it ends up happening that the tortoise actually goes faster than the rabbit because the rabbit just stays in one place because the rabbit is just so tired out. And the tortoise wins the race. So that has always stuck with me. And I went, slow and steady wins the race. Even during my tennis days when we would run the mile, I'd be one of the first girls to finish, even though, once again, I'm not a runner by nature. I do not have the build for it. My endurance is okay, but it's not the greatest thing in the world, you know. Out of like athletic people, like I'm all right, but you know. But I'd be one of the first to finish because I would always start super slow. I'd start so slow that I want to go faster, but then I was like, no, we're going slow. So for the half marathon, I decided for myself, this was the thing. I was like, okay, I'm going to go the slowest I can possibly go for the first 8 miles. And then mile 8 and up, then I can speed up, right? Good strategy. And it ended up actually serving me quite well. So slow and steady wins the race. In anything and everything I do, I always try to go as slow as I can. And I'm implementing this now into my consistency as well. When developing new habits, it's very tempting to, for example, say you want to become a creator, social media creator, which we talk about social media on Launch Success as well. So tune in, especially with the guests. But it's very, very, very tempting to just be like, okay, I want to be a creator now. I'm going to post 8 times a day. So you start 8 times a day, maybe do it twice, and then you quit. Instead, do 1 a day. Build up that consistency and then add on to it. Building good habits is all about what you can add on versus how you start, right? So focus on that. Second lesson I learned is that it is truly all mental. Suffering is mental. 13 miles is heavy on the body. And I also want to work on my running form. That's like one of the things. I don't think it's perfect. I think I run on my toes a little too much, even though I aim for midfoot. And just overall, it's something I want to work with, and my breath as well. But maybe that should be a separate podcast episode. How I fix my running form. I don't know. We'll talk about it later. But it's hard on your body too, because it's like 20 kilometers. And my muscles were not sore at all because I did my recovery, and you can see it in the vlog how you can recover so you're not sore at all. Because trust me, it's like it works like magic, genuinely. Like the routine I have, bless, top tier. But my joints were really sore. My hips were hurting, my knees were hurting, which partly because of the running form, but partly because it was concrete for 20 kilometers. Like that's a while. That's 2.5 pretty much hours of running, you know? So, but suffering is truly mental. It got really hard at mile 11. I was like, do I even want to do this? Like, I don't want to go fast anymore. I just want to die. Like, somebody take me, you know? But it's mental. And then I told myself, okay, until I quit mentally, I'm not quitting at all. Because physically, I can do it. Your body is much more capable than you think it is. That's why I said, and my boyfriend confirmed this as well, is I could have run that marathon in the first run that we did together. If you can run 7, 8 miles easy, like it doesn't, you don't feel like you're going to die afterwards, you can do the half marathon because the other 6, they're not going to matter as much. Sure, maybe you'll be sore afterwards and like obviously train, do your best. But before running the half, I never ran more than 7 miles. I tried to do 8, but then I don't know if this TMI is well, if I should share or not, but like I started getting stomach issues for long distances, which on the day of the half marathon, I don't know what it was, what kind of magic, but my stomach did not act up at all. And by stomach, I mean that I really have to go number 2. And not in like a way that's like natural. It's like it just pretty much like comes out if you don't go in time, which is horrible. Like TMI, I don't know if you want to know this, but just keeping it relatable, kind of sucks. So during the half marathon did not happen at all. I was like, God bless. I don't know how this happened. I was so blessed in this lifetime, but thank you. But yeah, typically when I ran the 8 miles, I couldn't even do it. I was with my boyfriend at the time because halfway in I was like, hey, I can't, like, there's no way I can do this because I just can't. And he was like, okay, no worries, we'll walk. So we walked. But that's the point. So all suffering is truly mental. If you focus on building up your mental fortitude and not quitting and not giving up, congratulations, you won at life. Because even with the finish line, I could have finished the half marathon 12.5, but I still won the 0.6 because in comparison to the 13.1, 0.6 does not matter. Sure, it's an additional 6 minutes of my life, but and it's like the hardest 6 minutes of my life because I'm sick and tired of running. But so what? It's all about mental strength and mental power. It's all about discipline. And discipline builds that mental strength because discipline is all about showing up for yourself day in and day out, no matter how hard or easy that day is. It's about keeping promises that you make to yourself. It's about not giving up. And so with the half marathon, when I crossed the finish line twice, I didn't give up. I did not want to do the extra loop, but I did it anyway. Why? Because I made a promise to myself. Now, lesson 3 that I learned with running the half marathon is that for me, the biggest thing out of all of this was, like I said, with the consistency, with showing myself that I can. It is such a big confidence boost. I don't go around boasting. I'm not like, I just ran the half marathon. Obviously, I'm posting content from it because I think it's the coolest thing ever. I think it's one of the coolest things I've done ever. I think it's amazing. And I definitely want to do the other one, the OC half marathon in May. So we'll see about that. I'll keep you updated. But it's all about showing yourself you can. Because truth is, a lot of people think that confidence is a feeling. No, confidence is not a feeling. Trust me. Confidence is an action. You become more confident not when you do affirmations, like look yourself in the mirror, which is honestly great. Like I do affirmations too, but it's when true confidence grows when you build it up with your actions, when you show yourself that yes, you can, when you make a promise to yourself and you keep that promise. Because think about this. If you could duplicate yourself, just duplicate yourself right now mentally, like copy paste, right? Just same exact person. It's you, except it's your friend now. It's not you, it's your friend. But it's the same person who does the same things. So if your friend makes a promise to yourself, to you, that, yeah, like we'll wake up at 5 a.m. together. And then if 5 a.m. comes around, you're like, hey, are you up? We're supposed to go on this hike. And your friend doesn't do anything. They just ghost you. First time, you're like, okay, like maybe whatever, they overslept. Second time, you're like, okay, kind of weird because like we talked that we would do this. Third time, you lose trust for that person. So how come is it that you think if you don't keep the promises you make to yourself, you'll stay your confident self? No affirmations are going to help in that case because you're not keeping the promises that you make to yourself. That's the foundation of confidence. It's all action based. So for me, finishing that half marathon, it really showed me that, hey, you know what? I can stay consistent with something. You know what? I can finish a project with something. I can finish a project from start to finish and I can do my best at it. Even when it's hard, even when I really feel like quitting, I can still do it. And all in all, the biggest lesson I learned is that I love running. I do. I used to think I hated it, but I don't. I was just in that little burnout phase. So now I'm going to give you the tips that you can implement right away, right now to stay consistent. First of all, think of the thing that you want to quit the absolute most right now. Just like really quit it. Don't really quit it. Sorry, I misspoke. Really think about it. Don't quit it just yet. You might need to, because here's the thing. It's never too late to quit. I'm all about staying disciplined, staying consistent, working towards your goals. But if that does not align with your goal anymore, then just let that be. For me, that thing is acting. Generally, I took a pause on it like beginning, middle of summer because I just wanted to focus on other things. And I'm so glad that I did. I quit it essentially because I had a goal like in December. I wanted to be on a Netflix show, But I stopped doing auditions. I stopped doing everything because I just realized it was not a priority. It's never too late to quit. It's okay, right? But then think about the thing that you want to quit that you know you don't really want to, but you kind of want to. So think about it right now. And the first thing you're going to do is think about why you wanted to do it in the first place. Because a big thing with that is sometimes that changes. For the half marathon, I first wanted to do it to like do the time, whatever. But then I realized I wanted to do it to show myself that I can because it's a really hard thing. So come to the true meaning of why you wanted to do this, why I wanted to accomplish this goal. Really think about it right now. And the second step is think about the plan that you have for accomplishing this goal. If you don't have a plan, create it right now. But if you do have a plan, then readjust it. Because if you're not doing the plan, clearly something isn't working. And a final thing I would say with that, with step 3, after you have the plan, is ask yourself this: how can I make this plan and achieving this goal as attractive as possible? How can I make it just the most attractive thing in my life? So, like, there's no reason for me not to do it. And then go from there. That's how you stay consistent, and that's how you not give up. Now, that brings us to the end of this podcast episode. Thank you for staying. Remember to give my show, Launch to Success with Vera V, a review, 5 stars. Leave a comment if you would ever run a half marathon, because 13.1 miles is crazy, or if you ever have. And if you have, tell me your story. And if you want to, why do you want to? And if you don't want to, tell me why as well. And I'll see you in another podcast episode. Thank you for listening. And remember, we're going together always. Bye. 3, 2, 1. Launch to Success with Vera V.